Hi, Alan Stratton from Woodturning. For this week's project, I had a block of zebra wood in the shop. It's a very striking wood, striking figure, and so I just had to use it. And decided to make a cross-grained box. This is 2 inches thick, which made it a bit of a challenge. In other cases, when I've had 2-inch wood, I've used something else for the lid. But in this case, with the striking figure of the zebra wood, I just had to show it off. Now, one other thing with a cross-grained box is that to accommodate seasonal humidity movement, I have to make sure the lid is loose. I don't mind, since I don't like tight lids anyway. So let's turn this cross-grained box out of zebra wood. This wood is a piece of 8-4 kiln-dried zebra wood. It has a striking grain pattern. However, at 2 inches thick, there is no wood to spare. Before starting this video, I glued on a threaded wood faceplate and roughed it round. But now, the first objective is to cut a mortise in what will become the bottom of my box. I need to know how big. I could measure and mark with calipers, but since I do have the ability to reverse chuck, why not mount the chuck on the tailstock and mark the needed diameter directly? By the way, this is one of the very few times that I have put a heavy chuck on my live center. It is way too heavy to power up. It would tear up the live center bearings far too quickly. So now I can cut a mortise. I start with my box scraper, but switch to a gouge to waste out wood. Then back to the box scraper to get a flat bottom and square sides. Then my skew gives it a bit of a dovetail shape for my preferred chuck jaws. The mortise is significantly smaller than the bottom. I plan to cut more wood from around the mortise, but inside the perimeter. A gradual shallow curve. I decide to sand as I go, and this time to wet sand the mortise and the box bottom. This sanding is with walnut oil. Since the oil is food safe, I do not have to wear gloves. More significantly, the oil traps the sanding dust in ugly globs. But at least the sanding dust has never been suspended in the air, and my hands are nice and soft. Now with the parting tool, I start to part off the lid portion. This is okay since I have a mortise on the bottom portion and a waste block centered on the lid. But this diameter is quite large, and I worry about cutting entirely through the wood. That would burn my parting tool and not be very safe. So instead, I mount the wood on a jig on my bandsaw. This jig allows the wood to be anywhere on its vertical slot. I prefer to let the wood ride against the saw table. The kerf serves as my guide. Yeah, much safer to part it off this way. The alternative would be a handsaw. Back at the lathe, I hog out some of the interior wood, but before I go too far, I need to firm up the outer profile. I decide on a half bead at the bottom and a straight side. There's not enough vertical room for other decorations. Now to get serious about hollowing the interior. Big question, how much wood is there to remove? The box scraper does a great job of cutting a straight wall and a flat bottom. Still, a gouge does a quick job to quickly remove the other wood from the center. Measure more and take another pass. Measure more and, that is enough. The live center has done a good job of ensuring the box does not take a flyer. Now it is time to pull it away and finish the center. But also be more gentle. Wet sand this area now. Now the lid is mounted with its waste block. For the joint, I want a loose fit to accommodate any movement due to humidity changes. The lid will slightly overlap the base. This time my skew cuts the rabbet. After a couple of test fits, it is fine for a loose joint. I needed mortise on this lid also, so just like I did for the base, I used the chuck to mark the size. It was convenient this way this time. Then cut the mortise the same way as on the base, complete with final tuning with the skew. Then shape the underside a little before sanding this area also. With that freshly cut mortise, I can mount the lid and part off the waste block. The waste block is reverse chucked, but I keep the tailstock loose. I do not want it to bind when the wood is cut through. Loosening it when nearly there works great. Now to shape the top side of the lid. There is not very much wood to spare. I cut a very shallow ogee curve and drill a 3/8 inch hole to accept a knob before sanding and finishing the lid. This completes my cross-grain box from zebra wood. Why let in-grain boxes have all the fun? It is a very pretty grain. I am not sure it is deep enough to be a candy cache. I guess it depends on the size, but I like it anyway. Please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe via my website, and tell your friends about my videos. I appreciate your comments and questions. Every week I add a new wood turning video to my website. Always, please wear your face shield so that it can save your life.